Yeah, I hope the sound works. Good evening. Welcome to this 20th edition of my live stream revealing my massive knife collection. Tonight, I have all collector's items. First of all, the big part is our discontinued Spyderco designs, and two designs from another manufacturer that never made it into production. These are prototypes and they never made it into production. So let me check if there are already viewers. Good evening, Don Bond. Good evening, how are you? Sound is good, thank you very much. Good evening, Stefan. Guten Abend, mein Freund. Glad you are here. Dogan, welcome, my friend. Guten Abend in beautiful Austria. So I think it's time to start off. I hope you are all doing well, despite the COVID pandemic issues. Of course, in a lot of countries, a lot of measurements are taken, and they are really hurting a lot of people in their work, in their pockets. So I hope your health is all okay. I am doing fine. My health is okay. I'm not worried about my health. And let's talk about knives. Okay. So for those who are watching this episode for the first time on my channel, I'm no longer a knife collector, so I'm selling off most of my knives. I still like knives. I really do like knives, but I'm no longer a collector, and I have a huge collection, and most of it is for sale. Not all, but most of it. So this evening, this episode, 20th episode, so memorable episode, I think. I thought I would like to do only collector's items. I have 10 collector's items on the table. So first of all, this is the Spyderco tote. It is a very small knife, a little EDC knife, little pocket knife, very small. Of course, with the opening hole, and this one was designed by Dalton Holden. Dalton Holden, American guy, knife maker, and it is a frame lock, as you can see. Sorry, a liner lock, as you can see, probably can see. Yes, it is visible. And this one was made from 1999 till 2002, and then it was discontinued. It has an US 8 blade steel, and it has a stainless steel frame. Let me show it in this camera as well. You can see the designer's name in big letters on the very small blade. Guten Abend, Björn. I'm glad you are here as well. A very small knife, liner lock, and discontinued in 2002. So not very practical, I think. Not at all, but just for those who like small knives. Another cutie, and this is the Spyderco Spin. This was one of the first designs by Eric Glesser himself. And as you might know, Eric Glesser is the founder of Spyderco. And now these days he runs it with his son Sal. And this was one of the first designs of Eric Glesser himself. Let me see if it will focus. And this is with Spyder engravement on the frame. This is a frame lock. As small as it is a frame lock, and I think it shows very hard. I think this camera might do it better. Sorry, Dogen, you are right. Sal is the father, Eric is the son. You are right. So, very, I don't know if it shows on the camera. It is a frame lock. All those names, I'm getting, the older I become, the more confused and the more I forget. So very small, and this one was done also in a couple of sprint runs, and this one was from the early 2000s. Let me see if I wrote it down. No. Blade was done with VG10, and it was from the early 2000s, first decade, and discontinued after 2 or 3 years. Not very practical. Not very practical. It is very small. Next up, I have the navigator. And the navigator, this was done with Gin 1 steel. And Gin 1 steel was, in those days, it wasn't used a lot. With a G10 frame, or G10 scales on the frame, mid-lock or back-lock. And this is also a small knife, but this is more practical. It fills in your hand and it's usable. You can use this. So from the small knives, this size is usable. On the contrary, with the spin and the tote, they are too small to be used. And this was a very, very useful design, and I think it was also sold quite a lot, but I'm not sure. And this one was from the late 90s, and I think it was discontinued after 3 years. So the late 90s. The Gin 1, made in Seki City. So a lot of knives, designs from Spyderco were made in Seki City. So very nice lines. By the way, if it's closed, really, is it? Yeah, the camera will focus. Very nice design. So another one, and I have 2 variations on the table. That is the Dragonfly. And first of all, the regular Dragonfly. This was also from the first decade of 2000. Stainless steel frame. And I think it was VG10. I think it was a VG10 blade. No, ATS 55. ATS 55. And made in Seki City. Backlock. And very useful, small, EDCable knife. And let me take this camera with a really useful choil. You really can use it for your finger for detailed work. And of course, now these days, a lot of this kind of knives are made with a titanium frame because titanium is way lighter. Yes, all these names, companies and knife names, oh, it's hard to keep up. And when you're 61 like me, it is getting tough to keep up. It's really getting tough. All those names and all those steels. 20 years ago, you had AUS 8, VG10, and ATS 34. and a couple of companies used 440C and 420 HC. That was it. And now with all those exotic steels and all those design names and all those, and take the designers and the knife makers. There are also a lot of knife makers and designers. By the way, shoot, one moment. I have a blackout. I really have a blackout. Yeah, this weekend Tony Bose passed away. Tony Bose is a very famous knife maker, and he more or less is responsible for the revival of the slip joint. So he did a lot of designs for companies like Case. Very famous knife maker, and he was in his 80s. I don't know how old he was exactly, but he was in his 80s. I met him a couple of times during Blade Show. I never really spoke with him, but I met him a couple of times. Very nice guy, very gifted, very talented knife maker, very passionate, and so great name passed away again from the knife industry. And he is also a member of the Hall of Fame of Blade Show. It's the Blade Hall of Fame. He is a member. So he really accomplished something in the knife industry. So rest in peace, Tony Bose. I'm very sorry for his family. My condolences, of course, for his family and his friends. But yeah, I had to make this, to mention this. So the Dragonfly. So this is the regular stainless steel variety, and it was made in the first decade of 2000, mid-lock. And then there were a couple of variations. I don't know exactly how much variations they made, but this is the etched variety, and this was introduced in 2007. And I forgot if it was a sprint run, so one time introduction, but I think it was made for 2 years, but I'm not sure. But the Dragonfly really is a useful little knife, EDCable. The ramp will help you to position your thumb, and with the choil you really can choke up for detailed controlled work. So, and the etched variety, I really like the way they did the engraving. So really very nice little knife. And what a lot of people don't like is that it's only tip up carry. That's okay, that's the way it is. Beautiful stainless Dragonfly. We are still alive. Rip Tony Bose. Dag Henk. Dag Mark. Good evening, Mark. How are you, my friend? So indeed, rip Tony Bose. Okay, next up, and I think this is the very first design Spyderco started with. I think it was, I forgot, late 1980 or beginning of 1990. Somewhere there, Spyderco started, and their first design was this one, the Worker. And it was quite spectacular when it was introduced because of the opening hole. and the very odd design lines, because like this, no knife company ever designed something like this. And then Spyderco came. Spyderco had its roots in sharpening knives, sell sharpened knives, and he had his own sharpening kit. And then he also started to do knives. So the Worker was the first design of Spyderco. And they had a couple of variations on this design: mid-lock, back-lock, tip-up, stainless steel frame. And this one was mid-lock. And then this one had, I think it had an ATS 55 steel blade. And ATS 55 is a pretty good steel. Back in the days, now it's not used anymore because it's hard to get. It's only produced in Japan, but it's pretty good steel. So the Worker, and I think the Worker was discontinued somewhere. I think somewhere in the previous decade, around 2005 or 2007, something like that, it was discontinued. I'm not sure. My memory is leaking data. Next up, and this one I really like, and I just discovered it has still the protection foil on it. And the protection foil is getting yellow. Fun. Oh, still has the protection foil on it, so it's still brand new. This is the Adventura, and this was the first collaboration of Spyderco with a non-knife making designer. So they collaborated with the designer, which didn't ever make a knife till that time. And it was Alex Diaconescu. I hope I pronounced his name all right. Alex Diaconescu designed the Adventura. And they had more collaborations with Alex afterwards. But this was, so again, a remarkable point in the history of Spyderco, the first collaboration of Spyderco with a non-knife making designer. And the Adventura has a lot of very remarkable design lines. Here you can see the protection foil still on it. And it was quite controversial during that time. So, and Alex Diaconescu also invented the little indent for a mid-lock. So you can't press it by accident when you have it in the pocket or whatever. So it is a kind of, you need extra effort to push it to close and open the knife. And it has pretty nice lines, I think. Stainless steel frame. And I think the steel was, I forgot, VG10. Yeah, VG10 blade steel. Finger choil, very useful. Thumb ramp, very useful with jimping. And it had really pretty good ergonomics. Of course, the disadvantage of steel frame knives are that they are very cold when you use them in the winter, when you have winters. And that's another advantage of titanium. Titanium is lighter and it doesn't feel that cold as plain steel. But I really like the Adventura. Compound grind, so a multi-compound grind, a lot of cutouts, a lot of details, and it's a very nice collector's item. the Adventura. Next up, and this is actually my favorite. I don't know why. I really don't know why, but this is my favorite. It's just pretty awesome. Maybe because I like big cats. It's called the Ocelot. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's called the Ocelot. And it's a Tim Wagner design. It's a, let me see, I forgot the steel. I think it was VG10. Yeah, VG10 blade. Steel frame, VG10 blade. And then G10 scales. And in the G10 scales, you can see Ocelot footprints. You mean the Adventura, I think, Don Bond. The Adventura. For that time, that was pretty controversial. Now these days, we have a lot of controversial designs, but for the early 2000s, this was pretty awesome and pretty controversial. That's right. It was a big risk of Spyderco, but it did more collaborations with Dionescu. So I think it sold well. Anyway, the Ocelot, yeah, Tim Wagner design, and I really like it. And I don't know exactly why, but maybe because of the footprints. And let me show it on this way, on this camera. It has a partially serrated blade, partially smooth edge, and then the footprints are really very nicely done. And the ergonomics of the Ocelot are really great. As you can see, a lot of room for your hand. You can really choke up on the finger choil, and the jimping is pretty effective. But again, I never use it. I would never will use it. It's really a collector's item. And then it also had the indent in the midlock invented by Dionescu. So really very nice. For a lot of people, again, tip down, sorry. For a lot of people, this is a deal breaker, tip down design of the clip. But me personally, I never cared about tip up or tip down. I never cared about it. So the Ocelot, really an awesome knife. Next up, this is pretty special. This is a prototype from 2018. This is a prototype of the Bestek Goblin, but not as a flipper, but as a slip joint. And this one never made it into production. So the Goblin, of course, was introduced in 2017 as a flipper. And I think it's still available. But this prototype never made it into production. There has never been a production Goblin as a slip joint. And as far as I know, only two exist. One of them was with Lee from Love Them Knives channel, and he showed it on his channel. And I think I showed it also on my channel back in 2018, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I ever showed it. But really a very nice little slip joint, and pretty awesome that I have one of the two prototypes, and it never made it into production. Let me show it on this camera as well. So the Goblin. pretty special. And I don't know why Bestek never made a production variety of this, because the Goblin, I think it was quite popular. I have a Goblin, the Flipper edition, with carbon fiber, I think. And I think a slip joint variety is also, yeah, pretty good. Great ergos for a small knife, really great ergos. You can really choke up, and it really fills your hand. It is a small knife, but you really have a good grip on it. And it's really very practical as an EDC knife. And for countries like Germany, where you can't have a one-hand opening knife, slip joint is very useful. And some people don't like big knives. Some people like smaller knives. And this is a small knife, but still very robust. So I think it has quite some properties that could make it very useful for a lot of people. Then again, what I don't like is the design lines in close position. I don't like this, and they should have adjusted the design a little bit, but then again, in open position, I think it's pretty good. Very nice. And then another one, this is even more special, because as far as I know, I'm the only one who has this knife. As far as I know, there's only one prototype of this one, also from 2018, I think, or 2017, and this one never made it into production. It's a big one, Warncliffe. It's a unique knife. No one else on this world has this knife. It's pretty unique. Flipper, Warncliffe, big knife, 4-inch blade, or a little bit over 4-inch. Titanium frame. A lot of cutouts, a lot of details. Personally, it's not the most beautiful, appealing design for a knife. It does remind me of a school bus or a train, or I don't know. Not really a knife, but then again, it is very useful. It is hand filling, and so it has a purpose. Premium materials, S35 VN blade, full titanium frame, ceramic bearings, ceramic detent, very smooth. So it has a glass breaker. Let me take this camera. It has a glass breaker, lanyard hole. But then again, this, yeah, I don't like the front in close position. But then again, you could use it as an impact object when you are attacked or something. I don't know, but it's not the most beautiful design, I think. But it certainly has a purpose, and I don't know why it never made it into production. But I'm glad I have it. It's very unique. Guten Abend, André Eisenherz. Just in time for the closure of for wrapping this video up. We are already done. I'm sorry, my friend. I think it was a short video this evening because I only had 10 knives to show, all pretty unique, all collector's items, not all the most beautiful designs, but all collector's items, and certainly something for knife enthusiast people. So the no name never made it into production. It's unique. I think I'm the only one who has one. Okay, are there any? Yeah, sorry, Andre. Next time better. You can always rewind, of course, rewatch. So let me know what you think of these. Which one do you really think is ugly, and which one do you like? I'm really very curious. Well, I have an announcement, by the way. I still didn't smoke, so I really think I quit smoking. So I'm very relieved, and it doesn't cost me any problem. So it's very, very strange. I don't have a problem with it. So I'm clean. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope to see you next week again. And next week, I'm still thinking what I will do next week, which maybe something special, maybe something with gentleman's knives, maybe something with custom knives. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about it. So if you have anything to report, just let me know. If you are interested in one of these knives, just send me an email. I hope you stay in good health. Have a nice week. Have a nice evening. I hope to see you next week again. For me, it's the no name. The most ugly or the most beautiful? Don Bond, I sent email already. Congrats on no smoking. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really very happy with it. I'm growing better. Try to be there. Okay. Bye-bye, guys. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.